Wednesday week. Who remembers Wednesday week? I think I just about remember it from a few years ago. It's like all these things are coming back. Games Xvid, the first one for 3 years, which I did last week. And Wednesday week, I've never been happy with that title. It just sounds ridiculous. The idea behind it, well, for anyone who doesn't know, it's just basically a vlog. That's all it is. And I came up with the title of Wednesday week. I feel embarrassed saying it. Because it was going to be every Wednesday or every other Wednesday. And yeah, every week on a Wednesday. So Wednesday week. Made sense. I think I did about, do you know what, I don't even know what to guess. 15, maybe 20. And then stopped doing it. And that was the end of that. I mean, I have continued to do vlogs over time, of course. Just random stuff. But yeah, I thought this is going to be uploaded on a Wednesday. So let's do a Wednesday week. Why not? We'll see. If it's rubbish, this will be the last you'll ever hear of it. It'll disappear forever, maybe. But it may come back. It just as and when. It all comes down to if I've got things to talk about. Ultimately, that's what it comes down to. And today I do. So I'm going to kick it off by talking about the Eclipse. Bit random. Gaming and non-gaming related. That's what it's going to be. You know, a mixture of everything, which is kind of, I think, sums up my channel a little bit. So, yeah, if you like it, great. If you don't, I guess you won't be watching the future vids. But maybe you will. We'll see. But yeah, the Eclipse, which happened yesterday, or Monday, which was absolutely rubbish. Or at least it was where I was, or where I am, in California. It was cloudy. I'm going to put up a couple of pics. I took a massive total of 4 pics altogether, but they're all quite similar, so I'll just stick up a couple. Or I might put them all up, whatever. I'll do what I'll do. You'll see them now. Just taken from my back garden, basically. And it was slightly grey. It might even look darker in the pics than it actually was, or that it seemed anyway. Because I was looking outside, and it got to the point where I looked online, because I think it was meant to happen around about between 9 and 10 o'clock in the morning, Pacific time. But it got to just before that, and I was thinking, it should really be getting a bit dark now, and it wasn't. And then I looked outside, I looked online, because I thought, have I got the time wrong? Is this maybe meant to be happening at 3 or 4 in the afternoon? But no, I checked, and apparently it just, I guess because it was a little bit cloudy, you didn't see anything. So it was a massive anticlimax. And I know a lot of people who went out and bought these like specific kind of glasses, you know, the shades that you're meant to put on, because of course, don't look directly at the sun. And yeah, and they weren't very expensive glasses, but what a waste of money. You know, now some people did travel a little bit out, you know, of the area, and they did see some, you know, great sights. I think if you cross over to the next state and you get into Oregon, I mean, it's not exactly 2 minutes away, you know, it's a few hours, I think. But either way, not that far in the scheme of things. So some people did go there for a better view, and I saw a load of photos that they took on Facebook, various friends, and it does look great. So it's a shame that I didn't see that here. But in all honesty, you know, I last saw, the best eclipse that I ever saw would have been in 1999, August, funnily enough, of 1999. Did I say 89 a minute ago? If I did, I meant 99. If I said 99, well, I've needlessly corrected myself. But yeah, August 1999, and I remember that very, very well. Because I guess in the scheme of things, it wasn't that long ago. But I was working at Burton Menswear, the clothes shop, in the centre of Bournemouth. And yeah, I just remember it literally, it was around about a similar time, 9, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock in the morning or something. And I remember we were just working there, obviously, so people were shopping, doing our usual stuff, we were serving customers. And then it literally went black for about 30 seconds, a minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever it was, a short amount of time. And obviously everybody stopped. We all went outside. It's a really weird kind of close encounters of the third kind moment where all the people were like as one. We were like looking up, going, wow, this is amazing. It's really weird. And that was a really spooky experience. You know, literally for it at like 10, 11 in the morning or whenever it was, to go completely pitch black. You know, when it was sunny. Before that, it was really, really strange and bizarre. But an amazing moment of natural beauty, I guess, really. You can imagine, you know, going back like hundreds and hundreds of years or thousands of years and people being freaked out and thinking it's like some kind of act of God. Or maybe it is, who knows. But yeah, you can imagine back then how that would have been, oh, it's a sign. It's a sign we've got to be good. We're being punished for our sins and all that kind of stuff. Because obviously religion was huge back then. It dictated life. But that's maybe a subject for another day. But yeah, so that was amazing witnessing it back then in 1999. And but to see it now, you know, in 2017, I have to think, what year is it? Does anyone get that? When you get older as well, you sometimes forget what year it is, and you even forget how old you are. Now, I used to, I used to hear people say this like 10, 15 years ago when I was younger, and they'd be like, someone in their 30s or 40s or 50s, they'd be like, oh, I had to think how old I was. And I genuinely think, what, are you an idiot or something? How can you forget how old you are? But then sometimes you do. It's really, really weird. Really strange. But again, that's another subject maybe for another day. But yeah, so a great experience initially with the Eclipse, but this time round, 2017, slightly anticlimactic, at least from where I was. And as you can see by the pics, it wasn't all that. So moving on swiftly from the Eclipse, what do we talk about next? Let's talk about Bros. Bros, not even joking, the band Bros, Matt and Luke Goss. So they have reformed. I think they reformed technically, like, was it last year? Around about this time last year, they announced 2 concerts that were going to be taking place, which have just taken place the weekend gone at the O2 in London. And it was 28 years to the day that they had their gigs at Wembley Stadium. I think it was either the 18th or the 19th, or the 19th and the 20th of August. So yeah, 28 years on, because that was in 1989. And they sold out Wembley. I think they were the youngest band to do so. It set records for the fastest amount of time it sold out, and all that kind of stuff. So, I mean, Bros were a huge, big deal back in the day. A really big deal. Now, I was just a kid, when they started. I think their first album came out, which was called Push. That came out in 1988, just after my 10th birthday. So maybe it was a present for me. Probably wasn't. But I had some great songs. I mean, I've got it on here. It's all pop songs. If you're not into pop, then obviously you're not going to like it. But songs like I Owe You Nothing, I mean, classics. When Will I Be Famous, Drop the Boy, I Quit, Cat Among the Pigeons, which was released with Silent Night around about Christmas time. And yeah, that was just off that one album alone, which reached number 2 in the charts, which surprised me. I thought it was number 1, but got to number 2. But Bros were a massive, massive band. If anyone remembers, like the Grolsch bottle caps that people would have, or bottle tops on their shoes, it was part of the fashion. And I did it once or twice, but really it was like the predominantly girls, maybe 2 or 3 years older than me, but of all ages really, some were younger than me, who did it as well. It was just fashionable, and they were a really big band. And then their second album came out, which was called The Time. That came out the following year, in 1989. That still had a few good songs on there, like Too Much, Chocolate Box, Sister. They did pretty well in the chart. It looks like they were all top 10. So it did well. And then 1991 was their last album, called Changing Faces. And it looks like they had Are You Mine and Try, and I think that was it. Those were the only 2 singles, and neither of them made the top 10. Are You Mine got to number 12, and Try got to number 27. So obviously the band was on the decline. I think music had changed as well, hadn't it? Because if you think when Push came out in 1988, and then 1989 with Time, and then maybe in 1990, possibly. But by 1991, that kind of, what was it, like manufactured pop, really, it started to fade away. Like Kylie Minogue. I mean, they were still around, but they were changing their sound slightly. So Kylie Minogue, Jason Donovan, Rick Astley, Sunita, Sonia, Brother Beyond, Bros is another one. All those kind of bands, loads of them, Stock Aitken and Waterman era, all those kind of bands were starting to be phased out. I think society was changing, fashion was changing, technology was changing, and all that music, which was quite youthful and naive, was on its way out. And then not long after that, well, I guess like Nirvana in 91, which was the last time Bros released an album, that started to come in, grunge music and things a bit edgier. Maybe in the UK it was more like dance-orientated, trance, house, all that kind of stuff started to come through. So that manufactured pop was very much taking a back seat. I mean, it kind of was still there, because Take That then came on the scene and E17, but maybe that kind of pop as it was at the time was starting to fade away, which was a shame, because I used to really, really like it. But as ever, with anything, things come back. We had, speaking of Take That, they went away. They were almost like mocked, really. They become a little bit of a parody, really. And then they went away and they came back. And arguably, they came back, and they have come back stronger than ever. I mean, maybe not so much now, because like a couple of members have left. But, the first sort of 2 or 3 albums that they did when they reformed, going back 10 years ago or so, I thought they were really good. Some really good stuff. I know E17 tried to come back and it failed spectacularly. I mean, they were a disaster of a band anyway. I did like a couple of songs, I've got to be honest, but You know, E17 were the bad boys, weren't they? Whereas Take That were the ones that everybody liked. You know, your mum liked them. You know, that was Take That. The housewife's favourite, maybe. So, or house husband, in this case. Well, I like Take That, but I think it's that thing, isn't it? You get to a certain point in life, you get to a certain age maybe, and you're just comfortable in yourself, kind of saying, I like Take That. I don't mind putting a video out saying, I like Take That. I like Bros. I like Kylie Minogue. More of that later. I like Jason Donovan. I like all that stuff. I don't mind saying it. I would have had a problem admitting that publicly 10, 15, 20 years ago. I just wouldn't have done it because you're embarrassed, aren't you? But you get to a certain point in life where it's, you just don't care. Now, it still may be embarrassing. You may be watching this now thinking, Bros, what the bloody hell? Come on, Alex, pack it in. And you may be thinking, I'm embarrassed for you, but don't be, because I'm not embarrassed. We all like what we like. Now, I will say that maybe, I'll throw you a bit of an olive branch here, maybe the reason why I like a lot of this stuff is because it's nostalgically based. Maybe that's what it is, because I was a kid at the time, so you look upon it favourably and fondly, and maybe you're a bit biased with your rose-tinted glasses. Maybe that's the case. I'm not saying they're great musicians and they're up there in that, you know, the Hall of Fame and all that kind of stuff. But, you know, I like all that kind of 80s stuff and early 90s kind of scene. I just like it, so I don't have a problem buying it, talking about it, and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, so Bros, basically, they did the... maybe I've done it already, a few pictures. If not, I'll put a few more up now. But they did the 2 concerts at the O2. It seemed to go down really, really well. And the pair of them, the twins, Matt and Luke Goss, Matt being the singer and Luke being the drummer, they look good. I mean, they're 49 next month. Matt looks, even though they're twins, Matt does look better, but I think that's because he's got some hair, although whether it's his own hair, I'm not entirely certain of that. But he still looks good. He doesn't look 49 next month. It's pretty incredible how he does. But then again, I don't look 39, do I? So maybe I do. I feel it today, bloody hell. Sometimes I look it, sometimes I don't. Today I feel I do. But yeah. But I'm really pleased that they've got back together. Now, they have released a new single called Love Can Make You Fly, just kind of glancing down at the corner of my screen. I don't think it's been released yet. It's about to come out. I've heard about 30 seconds of it. I couldn't even find it on YouTube, so I don't know whether people are just pulling the video straight away as soon as it's gone live. Not entirely certain, but it's a weird one because it's not what you'd probably expect with Bros, i.e. like When Will I Be Famous, I Owe You Nothing, pop hits, in your face, kind of drum machine. I say drum machine, they did have Craig Logan, of course, on drums, but it sounded like it was a drum machine. Yeah, no, sorry, he was on the bass, wasn't he? He was on the bass guitar, but he's not on this for the reunion. I think and that's the other thing, I'll get back onto the single in a second, but Craig Logan, the bass player, he's gone on and become like a record producer. Some pretty big bands that he's been involved with. I think some kind of girl and boy bands and stuff. So he's had a decent career, but he wasn't present when Bros did their big Wembley gigs that sold out and record sales and all that kind of stuff in 1989. He'd left, I think, the year before or a few months before. So I think when I was watching some interviews and people were asking Matt and Luke Goss, hey, why haven't you got, Craig Logan back on this reunion? And they were like, well, basically 2 reasons. One, he's got his own career, and 2, he wasn't part of Bros when they really were at their absolute peak with the Wembley gigs. I think a third reason that they didn't say is I think he sued the band. So maybe that could be another reason why he wasn't invited. Maybe not. I'm not entirely sure. But I think that story's true. I think he pretty much sued them. So that doesn't bother me. He was a bass player, but really Bros are all about Matt in particular and Luke Goss. It was about the twins. That is what it was all about. So the fact that the bass player isn't on the reunion, for me, it's not a big deal at all. So anyway, yeah, Love Can Make You Fly. You'd expect like a pop kind of release, but it isn't. It's a soul kind of song, really. And a really interesting choice for them to do. A risky one, because you'd expect them to go in there with that poppier sound. But then if they did that, would that be a bit cheap? Would it be a bit almost selling out? Would it make it look as if it's all a little bit fake and a bit plastic and almost like a reunion for the sake of it, like kind of a nostalgia ride just for the sake of it, like I say? Whereas choosing to release something like this, a song which I saw an interview with Matt Goss, and he was saying how it reminds him, the song was written basically about his nostalgia and London and the house that he grew up in and his neighbours and his friends and his family and when he was a kid, and it means so much to him. And he was really passionate about it. and it made me think, well, maybe that's a good thing that they're releasing this song, because it's not going to appeal to many people. So it's good that they're not selling out. They're releasing something that they want to release. They're being true to themselves. So I'm really interested to see how well they do. And if they release a new album, I'm going to buy it. I've talked about Bros for about 20 minutes. This is embarrassing, isn't it? I said I wasn't embarrassed. Now I am embarrassed. But the last thing I'll say about Bros in this particular vid is that, speaking of watching their interviews and all the rest of it, I just found it funny how I was watching a lot of Matt, in particular, interviews. Matt Goss, Matt like I know him. Matt Goss interviews from like back in the late 80s and the very, very early 90s. And he seemed, and you've got to remember back then he was like a teenager in his late teens. And he seemed so mature and so in touch and with, I just did with life and with everything that was going on. And I think it struck a chord with me because I noticed it not just with the Bros interviews, but with watching a lot. I have noticed it and do notice it a lot with watching old footage of bands from that era and the 80s in general and before that and early 90s being interviewed. They're so much more mature. If you compare that to a lot of modern artists who have been equivalent, the equivalent to modern artists who have been interviewed, I think I butchered that sentence, and they feel, or they seem really immature. And I don't know if it's because times have changed. Times were so naive back then. You know, we didn't have the internet. Things are a little bit more regimented. Maybe society, it seems, this could be nostalgia, of course, but it seems as if society was more respectful. Everything was a bit more down to earth and less angry. You know, do you know what I mean? I don't know if that is the rose-tinted glasses which I've got on, but everybody back then seemed so mature. It's almost as if you had a situation where the kids, artists, or just kids in general, people, human beings, when they were like in their teens and their 20s, and 30s, they wanted to be, but particularly teens and 20s, they wanted to be taken seriously. They didn't want people to think they were kids, so they acted mature. They were forced to grow up. Whereas in this day and age, kids, you know, in their teens and in their 20s, adults really, you know, they act, for the most part, so immature and childish, and it's like they lack knowledge, and they come across like they're idiots for the most part. And I think it is reflective of society, you know, with all this like trash TV we get. And I think by having all that, this reality TV, some of it's good, don't get me wrong, but a lot of it is just bollocks. Like this Love Island. I don't know what Love Island is because I'm in America, but obviously watching YouTube and listen to the radio and stuff on streams, like LBC and TalkSport and all that kind of stuff, I'm in tune with what's going on in the UK for the most part. And so I've not watched it, but I've clicked on these things like Love Island on YouTube just to see what it's about. It's just absolute drivel. If you like it, fair enough. We all like different things. But I'm watching it thinking, this is bollocks, man. And this is like a reflection, I think, of society. But you didn't have that back then. You didn't have that. I think people acted older because they wanted to be taken seriously. Whereas at this day and age, people just don't care. It's weird. It's a really weird thing in society, but I might be talking about someone in my late 30s, pushing 40, who's just out of touch with the kids. Maybe that's what it is. You know, because you get each generation, don't you, who always looks upon their era when they were kids as the best. You know, it was best in my day. My day was better. We didn't have that nonsense. We didn't have this. I think in reality, every era, every generation likes their own era and they think theirs is the best. I don't know. But that's that. So yeah, anyway, let's move on to gaming. Thank God for that. All right, bloody hell. How long have we been talking? It's probably been going on a while. Yeah, a fair while. We may have to kind of hurry up with this. So sorry about that. That was Bros talk for quite a long time, but I think it was relevant. So anyway, I said it was going to be the last thing I said about Bros. This will be the last thing I'll say in this vid. A new album will probably be coming out, and I will be buying it. You've been giving your heads up there. So what have I been playing? Great. I have been playing a couple of games in particular. One which I had on a pickup video a long, long time ago, and another which I've just relatively recently picked up. And sorry, I'm just kind of looking at myself all like slouched really casually in the chair, like I don't care. But it's just casual. It's informal chat with mates. That's all it is. You know, what do you want me suited and booted like Trevor McDonald off News at 10? That'd be ridiculous. And also, why do people stand up on vids? Have you noticed that? What's all that about? Why do people stand on vids? Is it like to be more professional? I'm not sure what I'm not having a dig. If you stand, I'm not having a go. Please don't be offended. Don't be self-conscious and thinking, oh, bloody hell. I don't get it. Unless you haven't got a chair. If you haven't got a chair, well, that's fine. I get it. But if you've got a chair, sit down on it. Don't stand up like you're a bloody TV presenter. Rant over. I've been playing Crash Bandicoot. Now, let me move that out of the way, actually. I know you can't see it. I've got this thing on the bloody screen. There we go. That's better. I can see the whole of the screen now. So, yeah, Crash Bandicoot. Oh, man alive. I mean, it's good. Don't get me wrong. Now, for anyone who isn't aware, it comes with 3 games. It comes with the original Crash Bandicoot 2, which is called Cortex Strikes Back, and Crash Bandicoot 3, which is entitled Warped. Now, I've never played Warped before, still not played it on this one either. Crash Bandicoot 2 I do have. I picked it up not that long ago. Didn't play it back in the day, or I don't remember anyway. If I did, it was very fleeting kind of quick gameplay of it. But I do have it, but it's the Platinum Hits version. And that annoys me. So I will want to get eventually, maybe, if I can be bothered, the Black Label version. But I did, back in the day, play the original Crash Bandicoot, and I did like it, but I wasn't very good at it. But I did enjoy it. But going back to this, oh man alive, it's so fiendishly difficult. Now, it's not even the main game which is difficult, but what they've done, and I believe it may not be free now, so you may want to check it. I think it might have gone up to like £2 or £3 or $3 or whatever it is. But the idea initially anyway, and in fact they did do it, they released this as free DLC, I think for the first month or so of the game's release. And it's a level called Stormy Ascent. Now, I don't know this for a fact, but I think Stormy Ascent went by another name, and it was in the original Crash Bandicoot, but it was only accessible with one of those kind of like Game Genie or Game Shark cheat things, where you put in the code and you can get hidden extra levels. Because they actually took the game or the level out from the standard game because it was too hard. I think they completed it. It was too difficult. But you can still play it, like I say, if you've got access to those Game Shark and Game Genie cheat code things. But if you didn't, you couldn't play the game. But it was in the game. And so, yeah, they've re-released it, basically, as DLC. It was free. I think it's now a very cheap fee. It's called Stormy Ascent. There'll be footage up now. And maybe I started it a while ago. And it's so fiendishly difficult, like I said. So stressful. Now, I'm going to put the bit up on the screen. In fact, that's what you'll be seeing now. And I fast-forwarded some of it because I was trying this particular part. Just this one jump. That's all it was. I must have been trying it for about 20 minutes. And it was infuriating beyond belief. The air was blue with rage. The language, it was bluer than that. Bluer than Blue Tonic. The language that was coming out of my mouth, I mean, and I don't swear on my vids. I mean, I'm not talking about things like knobhead, and I might say dickhead or, you know, bloody hell. That's tame to me. But the proper full-on swearing, I do it in real life. But I don't do it on my channel. But if you could have heard me, oh, unbelievable. I'd have been banned from YouTube, I think. The words, those ones, every one coming out of my mouth, it was just absolutely unbelievable. It was so stressful at my age playing these games, and I just couldn't do it. And then eventually when I did do it, as you've maybe seen already, or will be any second now, by the time I did do it, I failed spectacularly on the very next stage, which was like the next jump onwards. I somehow mistimed it. After I'd spent 20, 25, 30 minutes doing one particular jump, the easiest part of it I then screwed up, fell down, and then messed it up again. And then I got to right at the start of the level, and I tried to run off the edge. You may have seen that bit already. I thought, I've had enough, I'm just going to jump off. And it wouldn't let me. And then I tried to jump off the front of the screen, it wouldn't let me do that. And then I just quit the game. I was just out of stress. It was so annoying. But it's a good game. If you take that out of it, it's very, very good. It's just challenging. And a real reminder as to how games used to be very, very difficult back in the day. Again, back in the day. So, thoroughly recommend it. If you've got a PlayStation 4, I don't know why I do that, there's nothing in there, the disc in the machine. And there's no instructions in this day and age. What's all that about? But yeah, if you've got a PlayStation 4, you've really got to get it. Now, I did touch upon this in my pickup vid, but it's worth mentioning again because it's what we're talking about and it's relevant. But it doesn't say on the front anything there about being a PlayStation exclusive. It doesn't say only on PlayStation, which it usually does for the exclusives. So this to me says that it will be coming out on the Xbox eventually. I know it's more associated with PlayStation because obviously it came out on the PS1. But if you think about it, Crash Bandicoot, the other games came out on the Xbox as well and on the Xbox 360. So Just saying, I think this is definitely going to come out on the Xbox One, maybe next year. Probably, because nothing's been announced, has it? Unless I've missed it. So probably next year, Xbox owners will get that. But I think a lot of people have got PlayStations as well, haven't they? I've got both. Best of both worlds. Have a swig of tea. Alright, and now we're going to talk about the next game that I've been playing, which you'll see on your screen, which is Assassin's Creed Syndicate. So yeah, Assassin's Creed Syndicate, this is the Gold Edition. So I picked this up absolutely ages ago. This came out in 2015. But it's only just now that I've started to play it. And I've got to be honest, I absolutely love it. I think this is a really good game. There's a typical kind of Xbox spines, grey backgrounds and what have you. But I've only just been playing it. I'll do it again, even though it's a bit pointless. At least you get some codes in here. Various DLC and all that kind of stuff. The disc is in the machine. So, Assassin's Creed, I remember playing the first one. And I really liked it. Now, I didn't finish it. And I've not gone back to it for a long, long time. Because I started it, I probably got maybe halfway through, and then I lost my save stupidly, and then since then, I couldn't be and can't be bothered to go back and do it again, because I must have put like a good, I don't know, 6 or 7 hours in. Now I will do it eventually because I really want to play the game. But yeah, I really liked it. That was the first Assassin's Creed, and that must have been about 2006. It was over 10 years ago anyway, maybe 2005, 2006, 2007, something like that. 10 years ago. If not more, and I liked it. I thought it looked really good, and I thought it played okay. It was a little bit kind of cumbersome and stiff in places, especially when you're leaping around and jumping and all that kind of stuff. And here's the thing, for me it's not really changed. It's still kind of the same feel to the game. Now, I haven't played, as I say, the early Assassin's Creed games for years, so if I was to go back to it now, then maybe I'd say to myself, oh yeah, actually there's a massive difference. It's much more fluid than modern games. But certainly off the top of my head, it feels now as if it's not much different, but I'm sure it has. So, as you can see on the screen, I mean, for me, the graphics look amazing. What I love about Syndicate, and what I really loved about the game before I bought it, which is why I wanted to buy it, was the fact that it's set in Victorian London. And that whole scene, that whole part of history for me is amazing. I'm fascinated by it. I think the fashion was absolutely amazing. You know, people taking pride in their appearance. Unless they were tramps and stuff where they couldn't afford it, of course. I mean, and that's the other thing. You know, those times were stricken with poverty, so it was dirty, really. There's a lot of dirt, dirty parts of London and the entire country, of course. But really, it's just something about it. It was the fashion for the rich people, anyway, the elite. You know, the architecture, which was fantastic and looks really nice. The things like, and people who were in the game, such as like Charles Darwin. You've got Charles Dickens, Karl Marx, Alexander Graham Bell. There's possibly more people, pivotal, crucial members of society back then, historic figures, and you can interact with them, you can go on missions with them in the game, and it just feels great. I can't explain it. I mean, because I like history as well, it feels really immersive, you know, kind of communicating with them, seeing them on screen, you know, like Charles Dickens and Darwin, all that kind of stuff, like I say. There's just something fascinating about it. That coupled with the graphics, which look really nice, and the scenery and all that kind of stuff. Big Ben, the Houses of Parliament, you know, the cathedrals, everything is there. All of the London landmarks, basically. So if you love history, and specifically and in particular, if you love that part of history, you'll probably love Assassin's Creed Syndicate. It's a really good game. So I do thoroughly recommend it. Now, the one thing I will say, now, and this isn't exclusive for Assassin's Creed Syndicate, I believe this is just part of all the Assassin's Creed games, but it's kind of got that futuristic stroke present day thing to it, hasn't it? Because how the game starts, it's not a spoiler because it's how all the games start. You know, it's kind of in like a modern day. You play this like modern day character. I don't know the background story. I've kind of forgotten it. It's so kind of, for me, it's throwaway. But it's some kind of situation where you're taken hostage or you're taken prisoner, but for a good reason, because you can, I might have that bit completely wrong. But essentially you go back in time, obviously, hence go back in Syndicate and go back to Assassin's Creed, the first one, or the Revolutionary War in America, and all these kind of time settings. You go back in time, but you're essentially like a modern person going back through the body and mind of other people. But here's the thing, so the game starts where you're in like the modern time, and it's 2017, I guess, or maybe set slightly in the future, but it's so, you just don't care, I don't anyway, I don't care whatsoever about that. it was really rubbish. It was a little bit like kind of almost aimed at like a younger demographic maybe, and so yeah, I just didn't care. So I got that out of the way, and then you're put into the body, if you like, of two twins, Evie and Jacob Fry, and that's all I care about. And the funny thing is that modern day person that essentially you are, I completely forgot about that because you're so immersed into the game, and then maybe about 4 or 5 hours into the game, almost halfway through the game, or at least roughly, you're transported back to the modern times, and it was the first time that had happened for like 4 or 5 hours of the game, and it threw me. It made me forget, like, oh yeah, I forget that's why I'm actually here. And because you think that you're kind of Jacob and Evie Fry, well, you kind of are, but it reminds you halfway through the game that, oh yeah, don't forget that you've been transported back in time, and it slightly tarnished it for me. It ever so slightly ruined it, which sounds ridiculous, because I don't care about the modern day scenario of the Assassin's Creed, how it started or what they're trying to do, this project that they're doing in modern times. I don't care about it. I care about being in Victorian England. I care about Jacob and Evie Fry, the characters which I'm controlling. And I think that's testament to, well, two things. One, it's testament in a good way to how they've developed Syndicate. They've made the world so immersive and believable, and with the historic figures and all the rest of it, that's a good thing. But to the detriment of the game, or to the downside of it, or one big downside, is you've got this nonsensical rubbish of modern day Assassin's Creed, which I don't care about, which is in the game. And I know it's part of the game, but it's like, I just wish, I mean, it's not that much of a big deal, but if it was up to me, I'd have taken that out completely, and the game would just literally be you being Jacob, Evie Fry, or anybody else for that matter, set exclusively in Victorian England. There's no futuristic sci-fi stuff. You're not going back and forth. You are just set in this time setting, and that's it. For me, that would have been a great game. I guess it wouldn't have been Assassin's Creed then, obviously, because it's part of the story. And I don't know if I butchered that story again. I probably did. But the whole thing of futuristic stroke modern day Assassin's Creed and going back in time, in theory, I kind of like it. But I don't know. By throwing that thing in halfway through the game, it didn't ruin it per se. I may have said it did a minute ago. It didn't ruin it, but it threw me because I forgot all about that. It's because I was concentrating so much and I was immersed so much into the environment that it slightly, ever so slightly, potentially ruined it for me momentarily. But then I soon forgot about it and I got back into Victorian London. So yeah, so the actual game mechanics, they're still pretty stiff. Like sometimes you go up to like a box and you'll kick it like a loot chest to open it or to picklock it, and you've got to be right on cue. You've got to be standing at the right angle, otherwise the B button to open it, where you've got to press it or hold it, doesn't come up. So that can be frustrating. Sometimes you may press the wrong button in the heat of the moment, but that's probably because you're panicking. So you'll throw like a smoke bomb instead of like shoot your gun or throw a knife or a hallucinating dart or whatever it is. The grappling hooks, which I think are they called? They've got another name. I think they're called like the rope something. I can't remember what you call it. But basically, let's just call it the grappling hook. Those are pretty good, but again, sometimes you've got to line that up. But it does feel good to swing from roof to roof and go across the London rooftops. That is really nice. And the game itself is pretty big. But the only thing that I found really is that the more the game goes on, because you've essentially got to conquer districts and boroughs in London, the more it goes on, and I guess it stands to reason, but the more it goes on, you increase in skill, because you get perks, and then you can use those perks, those skill points, to increase your defense, your attack prowess, your stealth. You get better at the game, basically. So it gets easier. Now, that probably sounds obvious, but by becoming easier, there's not much of a challenge, because by the time you get to like level 10, which I think is the maximum level, that's the maximum level of the enemy as well. So you're pretty much on an even keel with them. In fact, because you're human controlled, you've kind of got the edge. And in fact, sometimes what you can do, let's say it's a situation where you need to capture one of the enemy. So you can basically go into an enemy base, you can throw a smoke bomb in there, so everyone's disorientated and confused, and they can't see you, of course. They're alerted to your presence, because, something's going on, smoke's going off. But they can't see you, so you can basically capture the hostage, knock them out, pick them up, and carry them away, escape from the zone out of the perimeter of the proximity of their view, and then you get in a carriage and you take them to wherever you've got to take them, and it's mission accomplished. You don't even necessarily have to kill any enemy or be seen technically, and it just slightly cheapens the experience. It's just a case of, you know, you can do it on every occasion pretty much, maybe not literally, but for most of the game, just chuck a smoke bomb or 2 or 3 in there, depending on how many you can hold in your pouch, because you've got to craft that, so the more you craft, the more you can hold, to a certain limit. I think maybe 3 or 4 is the limit you can have. So yeah, just lob a smoke bomb in there, capture the hostage, escape, job's a good one. And it's just, I don't know, it's I think maybe for the next one they've got to improve that slightly, because it's just a little bit too easy. But anyway, I'll wrap it up by saying you can see it for yourself. It looks really, really good. I really like it. It to date is my favourite Assassin's Creed game, absolutely. So that's Assassin's Creed Syndicate, and this is the gold edition. Now, the funny thing about this is I picked up the standard edition going back about, well, a year and a half maybe, and it was $15, and I didn't get around to playing it, and then 2 months later, I was going to play it, of course, but about 2 months later I saw this. This is the gold edition with the season pass. I think it retailed for like $70, $80, and this was on sale for like $20 as well. So I bought this, and it's still, you can probably still get it for like 20 quid, maybe $25, $30, if not cheaper, and I can't recommend it enough. So essentially I've got 2 copies of Assassin's Creed. The other remains sealed because it's the limited edition version, and but this one is the gold edition, so it's got everything. So I'm really, really excited to play it. There's loads of DLC as well, extra missions, Jack the Ripper DLC, which sounds a bit gruesome, but of course it happened back then, so it's more immersion, and it's kind of fascinating. You know, so I've not yet played that, so I'm going to complete the game. I've actually taken over all the boroughs. I 100% own London. I'm in charge of London. But there's still a load of side quests to do, so I've not completed the game. I'm only 50% of the way through that. So there's a lot of things to do, a lot of side quests as well, like horse racing and laps around London districts and stuff. You can capture cargoes. I may have shown some of that on the footage. If not, well, you've probably seen a little bit on there. Even if I didn't do it, you'd have seen the icons coming up. So yeah, there's a lot to do. I just wish it's a big world, but I really wish you could go into all the shops and all the buildings. That would be amazing. You can go into some of them, like there's bars and pubs, and you can sneak into some houses where people are just sleeping and are walking around. So that's kind of cool, but there's nothing really to do in there for the most part. You can maybe pick some collectibles up. But yeah, so it's a really good game. It is typically the same old Assassin's Creed. Nothing really has changed. Maybe the control mechanism and method is improved for each one, but it's still the same old game. If you've never liked an Assassin's Creed game, you're probably not going to like this, unless you really like the historic element to it of Victorian England, or Victorian London to be more specific. But I really recommend it, and I'm looking forward to the next one, which I think is due out next month or the month after, so we'll be getting that. I don't know if I'll get it at launch, because I'm probably going to want to complete this one first, but either way, that is that. So we've got that out of the way. I'm just looking at my list here. What else do I want to talk about? Yeah, let's wrap it up, because it's gone on a while. The last thing I want to talk about is, let me bring it up on my screen, and I'll also put it up on the screen for you to see. So, oh God, here we are. I thought I had it there. Yeah, here we go. So now you can see it as well. So you'll see that I sent a message to my mate Mike. I used to live just up the street from Mike, and but I've not seen him for years, because obviously for like nearly 10 years I've lived in America, and years and years and years I've not seen him before that. But yeah, we used to hang around as kids, just lived across the street. Him and a lot of us would hang around, we play football for years and years and years. Anyway, so he's on Xbox, Facebook, all that kind of stuff. So I sent him a message, and that message was, new COD appealing, Mike, or is the return of World War II too little, too late? So obviously this is in relation, well, to the new Call of Duty game which is coming out, which goes back to World War II. So it's kind of boots on the ground, as they say. This futuristic nonsense is out the window, which is a good thing. So I'm interested to see whether he's going to get it, because we've played online in the past, but very, very briefly. I don't really play too much online these days. I used to all the time, but in this day and age, not really into it, which is a little bit strange. Because I used to think people were weird as recently as 3-4 years ago. If you didn't play online, you were a proper weirdo, man. You were weird. I didn't get it. And now I'm one of those weirdos, I guess, who doesn't really play online. So anyway, he replies, and he says, too late, I think. As soon as running up walls came in, and more luck than skill, I turned to Battlefield. Having said that, I've not played Battlefield 1 for ages. I'm thinking Star Wars Battlefront, maybe. Battlefront 2 is what he's referring to. I've also thought maybe I'm getting too old for all this, which is the point I want to talk about. LOL, lol. And then I respond with, lol, I hear you on all of that. I definitely play less, but I still enjoy it in moderation. The only time to stop is if you don't like it. Never too old. But yeah, it does cross my mind from time to time. Playing with friends over randoms helps. If you grab Star Wars Battlefront 2, I'll see you there. Smiley face. So yeah, I probably will grab Battlefront 2. To be honest, I was going to grab it on the PS4, but I may grab it on the Xbox One. Again, it depends who's playing it, because it is an online game. So if I know people are going to be playing it on a particular system, I'm probably going to gravitate towards that one. So I guess if Mike and a few others get it, I may get it on the Xbox, but if not, I'll probably get it on the PlayStation 4. Or, knowing me, I'll probably get it on both, because I'm a bit weird like that. But yeah, so I found that interesting, his point there about maybe I'm getting too old for all of this. Now, can you be too old for gaming? Now, I know I answered it by saying you're never too old. And ultimately, that is my answer. You are never too old. And if you're enjoying it, if you're having fun, that's all that matters. But I think sometimes society can make you feel as if you're too old. We all know people, you know, we've all heard people who have said, maybe judged us and said, you're a bit too old for this. I've had it before. I've had it quite recently. People will almost mock you for playing games. But here's the thing. You know, I made a video called, is channel variation a good thing, or something like that. It was entitled around about that, those words, something like that anyway. And in that video, you know, I did say that gaming for me, because of my age, it's always been part of my life. Gaming was there when I was a kid. So it's always been there for me. So it is part of me. So why am I too old for it? Because it's always been there. Now, if I was like 85 years of age, by the way, if you're 80 something and you want to play games, obviously that's absolutely fine. But that might be slightly stranger, maybe, because gaming obviously wasn't part of their life, video games. When they were kids, it wasn't around until they were probably in their 30s or 40s. So that is slightly more unusual. But for people my age, which is going to be a lot of people, you know, give or take, watching, then gaming has always been part of our lives. So it's a shame that we're being made to feel like idiots for playing something. You know, it's just a game. It's just a form of entertainment. You know, we listen to music. You know, that's okay to buy music and to go to concerts. It's okay to buy DVDs and movies. No one judges you there. If you said to someone, oh yeah, I collect movies or I buy movies, people think, cool, great. Or if you buy books, you read books, not a problem. You know, or anything for that matter. But the minute you say you play video games or you buy them or you collect them, then you feel sometimes a bit embarrassed because you've got to be judged. And it is really unfair. And I don't know why that is. I guess, I don't, and here's the other thing, a lot of games are rated 18 and over. And I know, obviously, a lot of the demographic that actually plays them is significantly younger. But they're made for adults. They're made by adults. A lot of the people who make these games are in their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s. So why can't you play them? Well, of course you can. But it's that stigma, isn't it? It's society. It sometimes dictates that you can't, which is a real shame. So if you have fun, if you're having fun, then just do it. Maybe you've got to be a quiet gamer on the sly. You know, maybe you don't want to come out of the gaming closet for fear of being ridiculed. But I think that is a shame. So yeah, if you're enjoying it, then you're never too old. But it's just a shame that people think that. And here's a mate of mine, Mike, you know, who is potentially considering giving it up just because he feels as if he's too old. Why does he feel he's too old? It's probably because he's been made to feel that way. And that's quite sad, I think. So, are you too old? It's a question to ask, but I guess I've kind of answered it. I don't think you are. You know, if you lose interest in it, then that's a different story entirely. But if not, then just keep doing what you're doing. If you enjoy it, keep making a vid. Now, actually, there was a couple of topics which I was going to talk about, but this has gone on for far too long. There will be bullet points in the video, in the description box, so you can skip to them, and, well, it's a bit too late to tell you that now, I guess. But there's a heads up for the future. But there was a couple of topics in particular I was going to talk about, but I will save that for next time. One of them kind of talks about channel variation to a degree. It's just other things I'm going to be doing on my channel to keep an eye out for. And then there's another kind of really funny story about someone who's moved into a house not far where I used to live. It just made me laugh. It was really funny and kind of really, yeah, just humorous. I'll talk about that maybe next time, or maybe I'll keep it for a Thursday drive or another vlog, another Wednesday week. We'll see. Anyway, sorry for rambling. It's gone on a little bit, particularly the Bros thing. I didn't talk about as much as I wanted to talk about because I talked too much about the topics which I didn't really want to talk about, or not in depth anyway. I didn't want to talk about them in too much depth, which I ended up doing. God, bloody hell. So, until my next vid, which will be, well, my next vid's going to be a football vid, but my next gaming vid, I guess, or other vid, which will possibly be later on in the week, maybe a Thursday drive, or maybe next week, whenever it is. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you later.